my answer to that question that was asked at at the end of the last segment would be that yes, I think there do need to, there does need to be a big increase in funding, but not necessarily in the context of surveillance, because if those methods that we talked about earlier, first offence deportation, and really coming down on these people proactively on a first offence basis as a result of a change in legislation, I don't think there would have to be the need for all of this round the clock surveillance and stuff, which is obviously hugely costly. Tommy Robinson the other day saying it costs about $9 billion a year. I think. I mean, I can't corroborate those statistics. I haven't looked it up myself, quite honestly, but it's obviously going to be a very costly enterprise. And is it one that realistically works? I mean, I saw in an article from Nigel Farage. I saw his Facebook page shared today saying that apparently the perpetrator in the attack the other day wasn't actually on the list of the 3,000 most dangerous UK-based terrorists. I mean, I found it shocking that there's 3,000 people on this list to begin with, who obviously haven't been dealt with. If they're still on the list, it just seems crazy to me. And then this is what we spoke about kind of a bit earlier about people with an ulterior motive. And Sadiq Khan, for me, is the sort of absolute manifestation of this, because he's obviously someone with a vested interest in not just normalising Islam, but if you've watched videos, heard him speak, read about him, there's no other way of describing him but just an absolute shit, quite honestly. This is a guy who has betrayed sympathies for terror groups like Hamas and Hezbollah. He has shared a platform with Islamic extremists on various occasions. I think by profession he's some kind of ambulance chasing human rights lawyer of Phil Shiner's sort of ilk, who's represented sort of fundamentalist Muslims on prior occasions. And there's a video of him referring to moderate Muslims as Uncle Toms, which I'll try and find. All of these links I've shown and videos that I might talk about, I'll try to link them in the post on the Facebook page so that people can look at them for themselves. And I think in the same interview with the Uncle Tom thing, he's talking about how there needs to be better communication with Muslim youths who feel marginalised by society and are sort of gravitating towards these extremist views. Now, that's just complete fucking bollocks. No society should have to integrate itself with any kind of incoming culture or ideology. It should always be the other way around. I mean, I'm not going to go into too much detail with it here, but if you followed me or seen any other posts on the Facebook page, I'm a statist. I believe that the state is the people and the people are the state, and they both need to be sort of mutually beneficial towards each other. So I don't believe in any kind of compromise or having to integrate with minority groups. Sort of these minorities should have to integrate themselves within the state. And it's this video here. I'm glad this was from the House of Commons debate. I'm glad Milo actually posted it, because I saw it on the live stream yesterday and then wasn't able to re-find it. I can't find the name of the Tory MP who actually asked the question she's responding to here. But he essentially said, does the Prime Minister agree with me that this attack had nothing to do with Islam in the same way that the murder of Ari Neve had nothing to do with Christianity? And, well, you can see for yourself Theresa May's response here.
Will the Prime Minister agree with me that what happened was not Islamic, just as the murder of Ari Neve was not Christian, and that in fact both are perversions of religion.
I absolutely agree. And it is wrong to describe this as Islamic terrorism. It is Islamist terrorism. It is a perversion of a great faith.
Now, there's so much fucking wrong with this. It's unbelievable. For starters, for those of you who aren't aware of who Ari Neve was, Ari Neve was essentially a British war hero from the Second World War. He was the first British officer to escape from Stalag Luft. I can't remember which Stalag Luft it was, but it's essentially a prisoner of war camp, which was actually Colditz Castle. And he escaped from there. After he left, he joined MI9, which was obviously an intelligence-based organisation that was responsible for sort of aiding and abetting Allied prisoners of war escaping. After the war, he became a Conservative MP. He was quite... he ended up doing a lot of stuff in Northern Ireland. I think he was a Shadow Northern Ireland Secretary and was sort of poised at the time of his death. Had the Conservative government won the election to actually become the Secretary for Northern Ireland. He was in favour of Ulsterisation, which was essentially containing the Northern Ireland conflict exclusively to Northern Ireland through various means. I mean, you can look it up yourself if you're not really that interested in it. But the sort of crux of it is that they wanted to stop treating the conflict, certainly on the IRA side of it, as being having any kind of legitimacy as a political conflict. But they wanted to start treating the IRA and INLA, the Irish National Liberation Army, as criminal gangs rather than like political movements. So obviously he wasn't particularly liked by Irish nationalists, and he was ultimately killed with a car bomb by INLA, I think, rather than the IRA. You might have to double check that. I think it was INLA. And you know, that's what this guy's alluding to here. Is he's saying he's creating this false dichotomy of saying, well, you know, either everything's religious terrorism or nothing's religious terrorism, essentially. Now, the trap a lot of people fall into, I think intentionally with relation to Northern Ireland, is that they play up the religious aspect of it. If you really analyse the Northern Ireland conflict, it wasn't really that much to do with religion at all. Obviously, the loyalist paramilitaries, the UVF, UDA, all these sort of people, Red Hand Commando, they wanted Northern Ireland to remain a part of the United Kingdom. INLA and the IRA and these groups wanted a united Ireland. There was a convenient backdrop that Unionists tended to be Protestant, just as Unionists traditionally are descended from Scottish and Northern English settlers who were moved across to Northern Ireland, years and years and years, hundreds of years ago. And the Irish Republicans, the Irish nationalists, are Catholic. But that wasn't really what the conflict was about. Of course, there's sort of developed sectarian violence with anti-Protestant, anti-Catholic sort of sentiments. But ultimately, it was about the unification of Ireland. It wasn't about religion. Whereas what Theresa May and this guy is saying, on the other hand, is, well, this has nothing to do with Islam. This is Islamism. Well, believe it or fucking not, Islamism is Islam. We can't pick and choose who the Muslims are and who the Muslims aren't. Okay, there might be peaceful Muslims. There might be Muslims with extremist beliefs who don't act on it. And then there might be Muslims with extremist beliefs who obviously do act on it. They are all Muslims.